So as I try to do every month, I'll be answering some community page questions from you guys. Thank you for asking. I think we have 30 responses in this video, which is like the most I ever got, so that's really cool. But it's kind of a mini bye week for the Giants with 11 days off now between week 7 and 8. We're almost halfway through the year, which is pretty crazy. So I expect a lot of Giants-related questions. I haven't read through them yet, so I'll kind of just go off the spot, but whatever. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you missed out on this time, go ahead and check the community page towards the end of November. I'll probably have a question up for that, and hopefully you get to ask your question next time. So hopefully you guys enjoy this video, and let's get into it. Question number 1. Why has Danny been so conservative throwing the ball this year? Dude was slinging it last year. Is it the Jason Garrett effect? Will D. Jones ever throw for more than 300 yards in a game this year? So I think a lot of it has to do with Jason Garrett. I mean, I watched the Broncos game yesterday, a good amount of it against the Chiefs, and you can see that's Pat Shurmur's offense, obviously, how much they were trying to go deep. And you see this Jason Garrett offense, and you see how much they don't want to go deep. The Giants take maybe 2 to 3 deep shots per game at the most, and that's just not playing into your quarterback strengths. I feel like Jones this year has been at his best when throwing downfield. I don't know why the Giants don't want to do it. I think part of it could be they don't trust their offensive line to hold up long enough, which is definitely a reasonable excuse, but even in that scenario, maybe do like a bootleg here and there where Jones can set his feet, get enough time, and throw a deep ball. And we've seen him hit some nice deep passes this year. He's had a couple to Slayton. So, I mean, like, it's definitely possible. I don't think Jones is the best deep ball thrower there is, but, like, if he's doing well at it for the most part, why not try it? And will he throw for 300 yards in the game this year? I would think he has to at some point. I know his attempts aren't really there right now, but, with Saquon out and the Giants probably going to be down in some games, and, I think a good place he can do it. Trying to think of their schedule. I think against the Seahawks maybe might be a good spot because the Seahawks defense is terrible, but Seattle puts up a lot of points, so this might be an opportunity for Jones to pad his stats in that game. I think that game is a pretty long ways away, so I don't know like when it'll be exactly. I'm trying to think of the schedule, but I think he will at some point. If I had to think of the best game to do it, probably that Seattle one. I mean, they played Tampa Bay. That's a tough defense. The Eagles, Washington once again. So, I mean, maybe against the Eagles or something, but I really don't know. I think Seattle might be his best shot, but I think in 2020's NFL, if you get 16 starts, you're probably going to hit 300 yards at some point. All right, next one from Brendan. It's kind of a long one, so we'll try to get through this here. As I always say, I'm not the best reader, but we'll try. So Brendan says, I personally feel DJ is still our guy. He has had moments in nearly every game where he looks like he could be the franchise quarterback. I have to think that if the Giants allow Jones to get at least 2 seasons under the Garrett offense and decent options to throw to and hopefully a solid offensive line, then he'll take the next step. I just think when you watch these games, it's obvious that when he's given time to make plays, I think a lot of his problems stem from being under pressure constantly, and obviously he needs to fix that. But I think people forget this is only his second season and his first season with a brand new coaching staff. Mike, as of now, do you still believe Jones is our quarterback for the future? If he is, what's the plan going forward? And if no, where will the Giants go from here? All right, so a lot to get into there. So about the whole, is he still our guy and things like that? And does he need a perfect offensive line and good weapons and a good defense and all that? Yeah, it would help for sure. I mean, this is why when the Giants drafted Jones, I kind of said to myself, you're going to have to put a good team around this guy. This is not the type of quarterback that's going to carry you. I mean, we see Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert carrying teams that aren't that great. I know the Bengals have some weapons at receiver, but the Bengals' offensive line, pass blocking wise, is worse than the Giants. And the Chargers, they have their offensive line issues as well. I mean, I know they have some good receivers, but the Chargers' defense has not been that special this year. And same thing with the Bengals. And you see those guys making things happen. So I don't like to make excuses too much for the guy, the guy being Daniel Jones. I mean, I'm kind of over that by now. We're in week 8 now, basically, so enough is enough with that. But I think there's, not every quarterback's going to have a perfect situation. That's just the reality of it. There's very few quarterbacks that have perfect situations. I'm trying to think, even the Chiefs probably have a good system, obviously, with Andy Reid, the weapons there. Baltimore's got a good system, but even their receivers aren't excellent. I know Mark Andrews is good at tight end, a really good tight end, but at receiver, outside of Marquise Brown, there's nothing much there. I mean, it's maybe for Ryan Tannehill, he has a good situation, but there's really not many, is what I'm trying to say. So I don't want to say like this guy needs everything perfect around him. If your quarterback needs everything perfect around him to succeed, it probably says more about the quarterback than the rest of your team, because you see guys like, as I said, the two rookies in Burrow and Herbert, but then you see a guy like Russell Wilson who hasn't had a good offensive line in years, but finds a way to make stuff happen. Same with Deshaun Watson, hasn't had a great offensive line in years, still makes stuff happen. So you know what I mean? Like, I think it says more about the quarterback in that situation. So under pressure constantly. Like, yeah, I know Jones is under pressure a lot, but you see so many quarterbacks making plays outside the pocket, extending plays, and Jones has had some good moments of that this year. He's had a few instances in that Cowboy game. He had a play against the Eagles on Thursday where he got away from two guys, flipped the ball to Gallman and picked up 7 yards. I like that, but Jones doesn't do it enough consistently. You see too many times where Jones is just straight up backpedaling when he feels the rush coming, and he'll either throw the ball away, he'll make a bad decision, and things like that. So I kind of wish he was better at rolling out the pocket sometimes, having more pocket awareness and knowing where to go. Sometimes he doesn't do that, so I have to be honest. And do I still believe in him as our franchise quarterback? I really don't know where I stand on that right now. I'm definitely not confident in it. I would, percentage-wise, I think there's probably a 30% chance in my mind that Jones is actually the franchise quarterback. Some people are completely off of him. Some people still fully buy in. I just, going back to how I felt at the draft, I just never thought he would be a guy to carry a franchise, which was my problem with drafting him. I think he's a guy that needs a lot of pieces around him, and the Giants cannot offer that right now. The Giants have a left tackle that's a turnstile. They have Will Hernandez, while he's been a good run blocker, is not the best pass blocker, and the Giants' offensive line in general is not the best. And their receivers, I know they got Shepard back, which helps. Golden Tate's kind of slowed down a bit at this point in his career. Engram they haven't used the right way this year, so I know his weapons aren't the best, his offensive line is not the best, but what has Daniel Jones done this year to improve the players around him? Not too much, I feel like. And I know Jason Garrett's system kind of sucks, I get it, but hopefully things get better for him. To answer that second part, if the answer is no, where do the Giants go from here? So me saying 30%, I feel like there's more of a chance. Now, this is me talking. The Giants, I don't know what's going to happen because they might have a new GM next year. I don't know what John Mara is going to do. Honestly, John Mara can hire the highest qualified GM that wants to work with Daniel Jones, which I think would be a big mistake because then once again you're limiting your options. But if they don't go with him, then I don't know where they would go. I mean, I think me and Entertainer talked about a possibility of Jacoby Brissett, a guy who worked with our quarterback coach. I'm forgetting his name now. Something along with an S. I forget his name now. Shaplinski or something maybe. I forget. But he worked with Jacoby Brissett in New England, so that's a possibility. But does he want to leave the Colts? We'll see. And, there could be an option does Dak Prescott hit free agency? I don't know. I mean, we'll see. But there's also the draft. It depends what pick the Giants can get. I mean, of course, Lawrence is there, but he probably belongs to the Jets until further notice. I'm a big Trey Lance guy. I love his upside. And Justin Fields, while I've not come around on him completely as a prospect yet, maybe that time will come. I still have to watch him more. So there are options. I think Brissett might be the most realistic free agent guy. And then you have a couple of quarterbacks in the draft as well. So I don't know where they're going to go. I will have a much more clear answer on this question once the new GM is hired. But until then, I really can't say where they're going to go. In my opinion, I'd probably say if Jones continues to play like this, I would personally rather move off of him because the biggest mistake you can make for an organization is just keeping the same guy for too long. And I know sometimes you move off a guy too early at quarterback, but when does that ever really come back to bite you? When does a team ever get off a quarterback early and it comes back to bite them? The Cardinals got off Rosen in a year. The Bears are going to get off Trubisky. I know it's been 4 years of him, but still, there's not many examples I could think of at least where a team gets off a quarterback then he finds success elsewhere. If the Giants let go of Daniel Jones, I can't really envision him being this great quarterback somewhere else. So I feel like if they let him go, it's something I could live with. It really depends who the replacement is because you don't want to replace Jones with someone worse than him. But if the Giants have a good plan to replace him with a young quarterback who they think is better, or if they think a guy like Brissett is better, then I can live with that. But I guess we'll see what the next GM wants to do. So I guess I can answer that one more clearly in the future. Next question, what should the Giants do with Nate Solder next year, especially if Thomas and Parrott work out as left tackle and right tackle? Well, I hope they do. Trade him, question mark. Well, I don't know how they can trade Solder. Someone asked me this in my last video. I don't know who would want him. I really, there's no way a team would want a guy like Nate Solder. It's not like the NBA where you're going to dump off a bad contract to get a draft pick back. Maybe that happens, but I feel like it's more of an NBA thing than an NFL thing. But yeah, I mean, Solder's contract for next year now in 2021, $16.4 million cap hit and a $13 million dead cap hit. So the Giants could realistically save $3.4 million only if he's cut. Does it benefit the Giants to bring him back? Maybe for depth reasons, but like personally, I would not mind cutting ties and saving that $3.5 million. I feel like that might be more useful. Either way, even if Andrew Thomas struggles a lot this year for the rest of the year, which hopefully is not the case, he's still going to be the left tackle next year to start the year at least. There's no way they go back to Nate Solder. So like to me, there's no point in having Solder here. I'd rather cut him, honestly. If they could trade him for anything, then yeah, by all means, go ahead. I just don't think another team would want him. That's the thing. If Parrott works out at right tackle or even left tackle, that's fine as well. I just don't see a spot for him. The Giants have two young left tackles and right tackles. I just don't see the point in bringing back Nate Solder, and no team's going to want his contract. So for me, it just makes sense to kind of cut ties. I know the dead cap situation is a lot, but at least you're saving $3.5 million there. And once again, you're not going to find a team to take him. So I think you kind of have to cut him at that point. Next question, when the offseason gets here, what is the number one priority the Giants need to address first? I mean, I think honestly, pass rusher, I've been asked this one before. I think the Giants, while they have had a pretty decent pass rush this year, they're still missing a main guy. They don't have like a Chandler Jones. They don't have a Khalil Mack and Aaron Donald, the guy that can consistently get to the quarterback. And while I know those guys don't grow on trees, you look at the Giants' names at pass rusher right now, there's nobody that an opposing team is really going to fear. I know Fackrell's had a nice year. O'Shane Ximines has his potential, but, you know, Marcus Golden just got traded. So, like, there's really no one a defense is going to, or an offense is going to fear right now. The Giants, whether it's in free agency or maybe via trade, even the draft, they need to get somebody that defense or offenses, I keep saying defense, offenses, opposing offenses need to fear week in and week out. I think if the Giants get an alpha pass rusher, a great one, that'll change their defense a lot. The Giants seem to have a cornerback one for the next at least few years in James Bradbury. Hopefully he keeps it up. So they have that. Now you need to get your great pass rusher. The Giants have some decent pass rushers right now, but no one great. So if they can get that, I feel like that's the move in my opinion. Next question, should we trade Zeitler and Hernandez and get Shane and Parrott in the starting lineup and make Andrew a guard? So, okay, this is a lot to go over here. So, I don't think Andrew Thomas is going to be a guard. I think that might be like the last resort type thing where if he starts next year in 2021 and struggles the first half of the year, maybe they try to salvage his career and put him in guard, unlike what they did with Eric Flowers, but I hope it does not get to that point. I'm fine with trading Zeitler. I'm actually fine with that. I said in my video, the last one I posted, I'm okay with that. I want Shane Lemieux to get in there and get acclimated with the NFL. Trade Hernandez, I don't know about that one. That's one where I'm like, you know, I don't really know if a team's going to give up too much for Will Hernandez. And Will Hernandez is finally seeming to play well at this point. So hopefully he keeps that up and maybe can still be the left guard of the future. So I guess we'll find out. But, yeah, I think Parrott is probably going to get a chance to start at right tackle at some point for Cam Fleming. It's not yet, but I think he will. And even if Andrew Thomas continues to struggle, maybe at left tackle, we'll see. And for Shane Lemieux, I think he'll step in for Kevin Zeitler next year. I've said in the past, I don't think Zeitler's here next year based on his contract. It's too much money, and the Giants would save too much by cutting him. So if Zeitler's gone next year, maybe you put Lemieux at right guard and say, here, you know, you're the future right guard, and see if he runs with that job. Hopefully he does, but to me, I think that would make the most sense. Next question, what made you become a Giants fan as opposed to a Jets fan or any other football team? Favorite all-time Giants memory? So honestly, for me, I think it came down to colors. What happened was I think someone, I guess for Christmas maybe or something, gave me Madden 06, and that's when I started really to get into football. I feel like I grew up as like a big like car person and like construction and like NASCAR person. Like I had some weird hobbies growing up, not gonna lie. Even like trains, I like trains too. It was weird. But then once I got into sports, I started playing Madden. My favorite color has always been blue, and I'm from New Jersey, so I was like, hey, blue Giants are local. Like, hey, I'll just go with them. I was a fan of Tiki Barber growing up, so I mean that was kind of like what got me into them. And then of course I started watching the Giants more consistently after that point, like 06, 07. My favorite memory, I will say though, thank God I'm not a Jets fan, that would be terrible. But my favorite Giants memory, I mean probably. And I remember like the 07 run. Like I know I used to sit down for the playoffs with like some mini hot dogs and Shirley Temples when I was probably like, I don't know how old I was at that point, like 9 years old maybe. I'm trying to think what year it was. 07. I can't do math, but yeah, maybe 9 years old, something around there. So yeah, I had great memories of that, like watching it on like not even a flat screen TV. That's how long ago it felt like. But those were great memories, of course. Like my favorite Giants game of all time, honestly, might have been that 2011 NFC Championship game against the 49ers. Like that game was just amazing. Like I was at a friend's house and a bunch of Giants fans in one room, and we were just like all going crazy when Williams fumbled that ball in overtime, and just to have the Giants go to the Super Bowl with all that momentum was awesome. So that's like a moment I'll never forget. But there's been other like pretty good moments, I'm not gonna lie. And I remember like the worst moment for sure has to be the Deshaun Jackson play. Like that was a play where I'll probably never forget like my reaction to it. It was just terrible. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good memories growing up. It hasn't been good recently, but I will say I'm thankful for how bad things have been for the Giants recently. I'm still thankful that I've got to witness 2 Super Bowls at a young age, and that I'm not a Jets fan. So I will say thank you for that. But really, to sum it all up, I think it's because I'm from Jersey and my favorite color is blue. So those things tied in together, and here I am as a Giants fan. Next question, Danny Jones or Drew Lock, talent aside? Personally, I like Pat Shurmur and Drew's sling it mentality. I don't know why you said talent aside. I feel like talent's pretty important in that question. I think so far you would have to admit, even for someone that likes Drew Lock, that Daniel Jones has been the better NFL player. And Drew Lock, while he was hurt for a few weeks this year, has really not looked that great. I think Lock's looked better than the stats have said, because I remember in the first half against the Patriots, that guy should have had 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, but they ended up scoring no touchdowns. His receivers let him down. But yeah, I think for Drew Lock's skill set, I think Pat Shurmur fits him pretty well. And I do like the fact that Lock has a sling it mentality. I mean, I know Lock makes mistakes. I think he had 2 interceptions yesterday or something like that. But let's not act like Daniel Jones doesn't make mistakes either. But the thing I like about Lock is that he's not conservative and makes mistakes. The thing with Daniel Jones is that this year he's conservative and makes mistakes. Like, you're not going to get anywhere being conservative and still make mistakes. The point of being conservative is not to make mistakes. So when you're being conservative and still making mistakes, you end up not being a good quarterback, which is what we've seen from Daniel Jones this year. Am I sold that Drew Lock is anything special? Not really, but I've always loved his arm talent. I think he makes good throws on the run, but sometimes he's inaccurate, and you see him make some stupid decisions. Like, he threw off platform for that pick six, just basically sidearmed the ball. Someone on the Chiefs got a pick six on him, so like he makes some bad decisions, and sometimes, like, the one concern I had about Lock was his footwork. That's the thing that really, made me not fully believe in him, and so far he's had moments of lazy footwork, and that pick six yesterday was a prime example of it. So while I still think Lock has more upside because he has a better arm and can throw on the run better, and takes more chances, I still think right now Daniel Jones is probably the better prospect. But who would I rather have? I mean, that's a tough one. I really don't know. I still like the potential and ceiling of a guy like Drew Lock. I feel like he has more tools. But Daniel Jones, for a guy who's playing conservative this year, has turned the ball over too much. So I don't know what's going on there. I hope it fixes itself, but so far the turnovers have been a big issue, but hopefully Jones finds a way to fix that at some point. But yeah, Lock's been disappointing. I hope he turns it around as well. I'm a fan of both guys, of course, but I want Jones to succeed for my football team, and I want Lock to succeed because I like him, and he seems like a good guy, so I would like both of these guys to succeed, but right now it's not looking good for either of them. Next question, it's a pretty big topic around Giants fans these days. Why do you think Thomas is struggling so much? Do you think it has something to do with his technique or pace of the pros? For some reason, he looks lost and seems to be late on pretty much every block. So, look, when I watched him at Georgia, and I definitely watched a lot of him, I watched a lot of every offensive line, well, not every, but like the big 4 tackles of like Wills and Thomas and Wirfs and Becton. I feel like I was too low on Becton, by the way. I kind of regret that, but we'll see how his career turns out. But he's been good so far. But for Thomas, I feel like, and even his trainer said this today, I heard this on the radio, that his technique does not look the same. I know his hand placement in Georgia wasn't the best, but it seems like the Giants did something weird with him. And it could be a coaching issue. I still feel there's enough talent there where Thomas is not going to be a bust. I feel like they'll find a way to get him back where he's supposed to be. But you can tell the coaching staff is definitely doing something with his technique, because at Georgia, he never really got beat inside. And the good tackles in this league never get beat inside. But now you see moves where defensive ends and outside linebackers go out and in, and they beat him inside easily. And that was not happening in college. And his hand placement has been awful so far. I don't know if that's a coaching issue. I'm hoping it is. I think part of it has to be getting used to the speed of the game. I'm sure not having a preseason didn't help him in any sorts, but I can't make excuses because the same happened for the other rookie tackles, and they're all playing better. So I know it's tough being thrown in there at left tackle for the New York Giants. First tackle taken off the board, a lot of pressure. But at the same time, I feel like this is an instance where it's a coaching issue. I think once they get his technique down and he gets more reps, I think he'll be okay. And hopefully by the end of the year, the narrative will change on Thomas. But right now, I have to admit, he's been awful. Like, straight up. I know I was a fan of the pick. I wanted Wills a bit more, but I was very happy when they took Thomas. But I still think that this is salvageable. Like, I know some people are already out on Thomas, which I find crazy because he basically only started 6 games. He got benched for one of them. So to be out on the guy 6 games into his career seems kind of crazy. I think it's fixable. He has the talent, and if the Giants coaches can get it right, I think Andrew Thomas will be fine eventually. Next question, Parrott left tackle, Thomas right tackle, install it now so they have time to prepare. I partially want to agree with this. I feel like if it was up to me, I think Thomas has struggled enough where it might be time to put him at right tackle, but at the same time, part of me feels like it's not been enough time yet to fully judge him. Now, the Giants' bye week's in like week 11 or something like that, maybe week 12. I feel like it's 11, but I guess put him at left tackle the next 3 games or so, or 4, whatever it is. And if he continues to be this bad, then maybe during the bye week you make that switch. But right now, I expect Monday against Tampa that Thomas will still be the left tackle. But if he really continues to struggle to this level, and maybe even worse, I mean, I hope not, but if he's even worse, then I think it might be time to, during the bye week, install that. Put Parrott at left tackle, Thomas at right tackle. You can't keep throwing him out there if he's this bad. So while I do think it's not going to happen now, I think during the bye week, if things are still this bad a few weeks from now, I think we could see it happen, but I guess we'll find out. Next question. After last night, I guess it was on Friday, did Engram's value drop? I wouldn't say, I wouldn't put it like that. It's not like he got injured or something like that. That would have made his value drop. I don't think him dropping one pass, I know it's a key situation, and even having a tip ball for an interception is going to completely drop his value, because when teams look at him from a value standpoint, you say, okay, this is a tight end that runs a 4.4. He's a great athlete, can have yards after the catch, and can add a great weapon to our offense. I feel like him dropping 2 passes is not going to change too much. Teams already knew coming into this game on Thursday that Evan Engram's going to drop some balls here and there. I think he's had the most tight end drops in football since 2017, since he's been in the league, so that's not a good thing. But teams already knew that. So I feel like, just because he had an off game Thursday, a very bad game, does not mean his value is going to drop too much. I mean, maybe that scares off 1 or 2 teams, but for the most part, we know what Evan Engram is, and him dropping 2 passes doesn't really change too much for me. I mean, he's had those drop problems in the past, and you know the upside that he gives you. So for me, I would say it probably does not change things too much for teams. Next question, if by the end of the season it was clear Daniel Jones wasn't the guy, would you be interested in trying to trade him, then signing Dak Prescott? That way we could use our first-round pick on another position of need, or would you rather try for Trey Lance, assuming the Jets are the ones that get number 1 overall? So this is a possible and likely scenario if Daniel Jones does not work out. I don't know if the Cowboys are going to let Dak Prescott leave, and for how bad Dalton's been, I know it's only been 2 games, basically 1.5 because he left with a concussion, but for how bad it's been for Dallas since he's left, this kind of works in his favor for contract negotiations. Now, will they give him a massive deal coming off that bad injury? Maybe, maybe not, but I don't know. If I was the Giants, I'd probably try to avoid, giving Dak a big contract. I mean, I like Dak, but he's not an elite quarterback in my mind. I know he has a lot of passing yards, and a lot of that's when the Cowboys are trailing, so how legit is that? I mean, it's not, I'm not one of those people that likes to look at just numbers. I know some people do, but, sometimes the numbers are deceiving, and in Dak Prescott's case, it could be the same thing. The guy was on pace for, 6,000 yards, so it's how legit is that, you know what I mean? But Dak is impressive. I'll give him that. I wouldn't give him a massive deal, so I'd probably want to avoid that. But yeah, I mean, if Trey Lance is there, I don't want to be on record of saying, now in October, who I would take at quarterback, because there's a lot more to watch for me. But I am a big fan of Trey Lance. I will say it. His upside is through the roof, and that's one of the things I look for in a franchise quarterback is how much upside does this guy have. You look at a guy like Justin Herbert, his upside was through the roof. He's 6'5" and very athletic, a very strong arm. That's a guy with incredible upside. And I see the same type of thing for Trey Lance. Trey Lance is a guy who's a phenomenal athlete, can extend plays in the pocket, can make guys miss. He's agile, very strong arm. Doesn't make too many mistakes. I think he's had 1 interception in his college career, which is pretty insane. So doesn't really turn the ball over too much, at least at the collegiate level. So that's a good thing to see. So I am interested in Trey Lance, but it will be interesting to see what pick the Giants end up with. Of course, Trevor Lawrence would be nice, but in this scenario, the Jets would get him. So, yeah, maybe Trey Lance. I'm not really a Fields guy yet, as I said, but honestly, if the Giants took Trey Lance, I can definitely get on board with that because that's a quarterback that I think has the tools one day to be a top 10, maybe even top 5 quarterback if he goes to the right situation. Next question, who do you think is the best receiver for the Giants right now, and if they should keep him? I feel like a lot of people would say Darius Slayton without hesitation. I'm kind of between Slayton and Sterling Shepard right now. I feel like Shepard's, when he's played this year, has been great as a possession receiver. I mean, Shepard's not going to be great at getting separation and making contested catches and things like that. But when he's open, he's very reliable, doesn't drop the ball, and seems to be one of Daniel Jones' favorite targets. Now, while I love Slayton and his ability and his deep ball ability and things like that, I feel like Shepard, when he's in there, is the more consistent receiver. So am I crazy to say Sterling Shepard might be their best receiver? Maybe. Maybe Slayton needs more time to develop. But honestly, I think Shepard's probably their most reliable guy right now. And they'll probably end up keeping him because, as I've said in the past, no one probably wants that contract. Maybe the Giants can get his contract off the books for, a 7th round pick, but is it really worth it at that point? You know what I mean? So I feel like Shepard is going to be their best receiver for a while. Maybe Slayton takes that jump into wide receiver 1 territory, but I still look at Slayton as a good number 2. I don't look at him as a legit wide receiver 1 for the NFL standpoint. So I think Shepard right now is honestly probably their best option. And if Golden Tate is traded, you can put Shepard back in the slot where he's most productive, and you can get even better production out of him. So maybe I'm crazy, but I'd probably go with Sterling Shepard there. Next question. I get that Jones had a pretty good game, but to me this year we're finishing top 3 in the draft, and I can't see a new GM not taking a chance on his own quarterback. What's your thoughts? You're straight up being realistic. I have to say, some people want to say, oh, there's no chance they'll take a new quarterback in only 2 years of Daniel Jones. Well, I hate to break it to you. When a new GM comes in, they want to get their own guys in here. If his new GM doesn't like Daniel Jones, I'm sorry, he's gone. I just have to be honest. So I don't know what the right move is. It depends what pick they have. And as you said, top 3. I tweeted the other day, and I know I got some heat for it, of course, because how could I ever say this? But I do like Trey Lance as a prospect more than I like Daniel Jones, and I'll probably say the same thing about Justin Fields. So would I rather have Justin Fields and Trey Lance over Daniel Jones? Probably. I still have to watch more of those guys, but I think they're better prospects in my opinion. And if the next GM feels that way, then hey, he's probably gone. Let's be honest here. So I think you're not crazy for that. My thoughts are that it really depends what the new GM wants. And as I said, we could be in a situation where once again John Mara rules with an iron fist and says, no, Daniel Jones has to be the quarterback next year or else you're not getting the job, which would be a terrible way to go about it. Let someone actually come in here and run the show. John Mara needs to get his, stop getting in personnel decisions. Let somebody else run the show for once because you're not good at it. But yeah, I think it's very possible, especially if they finish in the top 3 and have a chance at, Lance or Justin Fields. So we'll see. Next question, how do you feel about Golden Tate? Well, he said the Golden Tate. Oh, the Golden Trade. I'm stupid. I'm sorry. I saw T and Trade and Tate kind of looks the same, but as I said, not a good reader, so my fault. I made a video about it if you want a more descriptive type answer to it, but I liked it a lot because, I know it's a 6th-round pick, and some people will say, oh, you only got a 6th-round pick, but at the end of the day, Golden's a guy that was not going to be here next year, and I thought the Giants, as much as I criticized their front office, did a great job handling Golden. They get him for a 1-year deal back in 2019. They get him for that tender thing this year where they paid him 10% more than last year on a 1-year deal for $4 million. They trade him for a 6th-round pick, a guy that's not going to be here next year. You might as well get the draft asset if he's not going to be here. I thought the Giants made a great move there, in my opinion. Next question. Realistically speaking, when do you think Joe Judge will turn us around? My realistic answer, honestly, is when he gets the talent. You can't win in the NFL without talent. The Giants don't have too much of it right now. They have some talented players, but not enough compared to other teams. And let's be honest, their offense is not good enough. Joe Judge cannot win with an offense that's putting up 20 points a game on a good week. You know what I mean? So I will say, though, it reflects on Joe Judge very nicely that his team is competing in just about every game. Outside of that Week 3 loss, they've been in every game against some tough opponents, the Rams, the Steelers, the Eagles game they should have won, as we know. So I'm sure I'm missing one. The Cowboys game they should have won. So, they are in basically every game. I think it says a lot about the coach, and the lack of talent here is definitely a big issue, and I think talent rules all in the NFL. But the Giants do not have good execution, too. That's a problem. That's the reason they lost Thursday, because you can coach the guys all you want, but if they're not executing the game plan, then it's not going to work. So I think Joe Judge has been a good coach in a lot of aspects so far. He's made some pretty nice adjustments, I think, so far. He's had good good game plans. The Giants seem to come out prepared every game, which I like. But I think until he gets the talent, they probably won't turn it around. But hopefully soon they will get that talent. I think once they get a new GM in here that hopefully is a lot better than the previous one, or the current one, I should say, that I think the talent here will turn around, and I think Joe Judge will have a much easier job with making this team a better contender. Next question, number 1, how many years are we from Super Bowl contention? Number 2, do you think that the current rebuild we're undergoing now will be the one to get us there? So how many years away are we? It's a good question. I think at least a couple. It's not going to happen this year. I don't see it next year. And honestly, I never view Daniel Jones as a Super Bowl winning quarterback, so I don't know if we even have the right guy in place, which is definitely big. And we don't know what the real Giants are going to do. Like, we don't know if they're going to get a new quarterback next year, and a rookie quarterback's never won a Super Bowl as far as I know, so now we're talking about 2022 being the earliest. Like, let's hypothetically say the Giants get Trey Lance, Justin Fields. They show a lot of promise their rookie year. The Giants maybe make the playoffs, get out the first or second round. And then in year 2, they finally make that leap as being an elite team. Well, now we're talking about 2022. So that might be the earliest time possible. They might have to fill in their other positions like wide receiver, pass rusher. If they get those positions, then maybe this is a team that makes a Super Bowl run. We'll see. Now, their current rebuild, do I think it's moving in the right direction? I guess yes and no. The free agency class this year has been great. Bradbury's been one of the best corners in football. Martinez looks like a Super Bowl, caliber middle linebacker, which you want. Guys like Kyler Fackrell, he's been a good signing as well. So the Giants have had a good free agency so far. But you talk about the recent draft picks. I mean, you have a guy like Daniel Jones who's been average so far. You have a guy like Saquon Barkley who can't stay healthy. He plays the running back position, a replaceable position. Dexter Lawrence doesn't move the needle too much as a run stuffer. If he got to the passer a lot more, you can say that's the big difference maker, but he's a solid player who doesn't change the game too much. DeAndre Baker, not going to play in the NFL ever again probably. Will Hernandez, he might come around at some point, but he's been average to this point. Darnay Holmes is pretty solid. I mean, from this draft class, Andrew Thomas looks like, he's struggling right now, but maybe he figures it out and becomes the guy. I like McKinney a lot, who has not played yet with the injury. Parrott has shown some promise, maybe a future right or left tackle. Shane Lemieux, we'll see. Darnay Holmes I like. So, I mean, they're making some right moves. It hasn't been perfect by any means, but I think if they keep this thing going in the right direction, Ed, the Giants really just need that, I think, elite quarterback, wide receiver 1, and great pass rusher. I think that's what they need right now. They might, be a little far off from getting that. We'll see how long it takes them, but if they get those things, then maybe they'll become the Super Bowl contender we want them to be. Next question, I personally want Justin Fields. Do you think we draft him if Jones plays as bad as he is playing? I can already tell Gettleman is out after this year. I agree. I think Gettleman's probably out after this year. Do I see the Giants taking Justin Fields? I mean, yeah, it's possible. I mean, it really depends what pick they get, honestly. If the Giants are the second or third pick and they evaluate these quarterbacks and realize Jones is not the guy, or the new GM thinks he's not the guy, and they want a new quarterback, and they do all their evaluations and they say, okay, like Justin Fields is number 2 on our board and we think he can be a franchise quarterback after Trevor Lawrence, I would imagine, then you say to yourself, okay, like is this guy good enough to pick at number 2 or number 3 overall, number 4, whatever the pick the Giants have? And if they think that, then yeah, Justin Fields would be a Giant. So, I mean, I don't know if it's going to happen. It's going to be interesting. As I've said before, it depends who the next GM is. We got to see their track record and things like that to make me fully believe they'll take a quarterback. But, until we see Daniel Jones cut or traded or something, I can't imagine it's going to happen, but I guess crazier things have happened. It really depends who they hire, and Justin Fields is a good prospect, I'm not going to lie. So we'll see what they do, but I would not rule it out. It's definitely possible. So Nicholas Wagner asked a similar question about Joe Judge. Can he bring the franchise back to a Super Bowl contender? I kind of got into that before, so I'm not going to rehash it, but sorry about that one. But next question is, since you said you watched the Ohio State game, what is your thoughts, I guess that's thoughts, on Justin Fields? Sorry for the bad English, I'm Brazilian. By the way, I love Daniel Jones, but I'm curious. Okay, I mean, yeah, I did watch Justin Fields the other day, and I mean, it was very impressive. I think he had, one incompletion or something. He was pretty crazy good. Didn't play the best competition, obviously, in Ohio State. While they're a good system for quarterbacks and things like that, and people make that lazy argument of, Ohio State quarterbacks don't pan out in the NFL, I always say that every prospect is different. It's a lazy argument. It's stupid, so I would not go there. But yeah, I mean, I still have to watch more of Justin Fields. Like, I've watched more of Trey Lance and more Trevor Lawrence. I have not watched a crazy amount of Fields, maybe like 2 or 3 full games of him. So I do want to watch more, but he's been impressive so far. I feel like Fields, if you put him in the right system with the right guys around him, I think he can be a very good quarterback. I think he can do what Dak Prescott's done for the Cowboys, honestly. So if he can be that and maybe a bit more athletic, then you're talking about a really good quarterback. Is that enough to win you a Super Bowl? Maybe. We'll find out. But I think Fields is a very interesting prospect, but I still want to watch more of him. From Pierce, do you still have faith in DJ? I mean, honestly, I'm leaning towards no. I mean, it's been like that for a while. I mean, like, there were some people this past offseason that said, oh, the Giants found their franchise quarterback. And at one point I had to tweet out because I've seen it too much. I'm like, well, can we hold off on the Giants found their franchise quarterback? Like, I know Jones did some really nice things last year and showed some promise, but I can't completely block out the bad things he did. How the fumbles were so bad, the interceptions, the decision making, the arm strength not being there sometimes, the throwing outside the numbers and on deep balls. It hasn't been great. Like, he's made some bad decisions and turns the ball over. So for people to be like, oh, the Giants found their franchise quarterback, I was like, that's a little premature. Like, we have to see more. So yeah, I'm leaning towards no. I'm not gonna lie. I hope I'm wrong. As I've said before, I want to come on here and say, haha, I'm stupid, I got it wrong, Daniel Jones is great. Like, I want that to happen, but as you guys know, I'm gonna be honest and say what's in my heart, and so far I just don't see it. So I would probably go with no. Next question, thoughts on trading Zeitler and starting Lemieux at right guard? I love that. That's like one of my favorite ideas right now. I think Lemieux has a chance to be a very solid guard in this league, and Zeitler, as I've said, does not have much of a future here. He's like 31 years old, has a lot of money on the cap hit next year. I don't think he'll be a Giant here regardless of whether he's traded or cut. The Giants might as well try to get something for him, just like the Marcus Golden situation. So yeah, I like that move a lot. Why are we here? Just to suffer? ? I don't know. I don't know if that's a Giants question or a life question in general. I don't know. That's a good one. Trade Dalvin or Leo? Yeah, I made a trade video yesterday or 2 days ago. I had those guys in there. I don't want to trade Dalvin Tomlinson, but I had to put it in there as a possibility. If the Giants have no plans of extending Leonard Williams, which is tricky because they don't have their future GM in place, then I would say trade him. But as we know, they don't have their future GM right now, so that's kind of tough to say. But if the Giants don't extend Leo, I'd rather trade him than let him walk and get the end of the third round comp pick or something like that. So that would be my opinion. Next question. I'm kind of flying through these because we've been on this video for a while. Any O-line changes? ? Thomas had a rough game. He's had a rough season, my friend. I don't know if I see any changes yet. As I said on the other previous question, the only thing I can see happening right now is that basically the Giants play the next 3 or 4 games, and then if Thomas continues to struggle over the next few games, they put Parrott at left tackle and put Thomas at right tackle. That's the only thing I see changing. I would like to see Lemieux play, and if Kevin Zeitler gets traded, obviously that's going to happen, but until then, I guess there's no room for him, so we'll see. Who do you think the Yankees should sign? I mean, this is a Yankee question, all right, but we'll go with it. I made a video about this, I think maybe a couple weeks ago. The guy I want, honestly, he's not a big name, but I want Kevin Gausman from the Giants. He's a former Oriole pitcher, former Brave, I think, as well. He mixed up his pitches a lot. He throws in the high 90s. He had a great year. No, not a great, but a really good year in 2020. I know it's a shortened season, but Kevin Gausman showed some promise. He's a former AL East pitcher. I think he'd be a nice signing. I'm one of those Yankee fans that would be okay with trading Gary Sanchez. I think James McCann on the White Sox, that catcher, would be a nice replacement for him as well. So that's a couple guys. I had a trade in there, Gary Sanchez for Eliezer Hernandez. I like the young Marlins pitcher, so I don't know. I'm kind of just spitballing, but it's just an idea. So I made a video about that one if you want to watch it. Why did we trade Golden? I kind of went over that one. One guy responded, Nash, we are 1-6 and he is not part of the future. I think Nash hit that one, nail on the head right there. That's a great answer. He's, the team's not good, not part of the future. Marcus Golden can get you a 6th-round pick. You got to take it. Last question. Assuming you think that we stick with DJ, what should the Giants do if they get a top 5 pick? Trade down or take someone at wherever they are? I can definitely answer this one better, like after I research draft prospects. But as I've said, I've only watched about 7 or 8 guys closely, so I really can't say. The Oregon left tackle, Sewell, Penei Sewell, Sewell, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, honestly, but when I watched him, he was very impressive. But the Giants just took a left tackle. They took a right tackle as well, so do you want to invest another piece at left tackle? I would say probably trade down. If the Giants can get a good amount of assets for that pick, then I would say probably trade down. You can't go wrong with that, so we'll see. But I think I could definitely answer that one more as we get closer to the draft and as I look at more prospects. There's other people that other people like, but as you said here, I mean, it's a guarantee that Trevor Lawrence goes number 1. So if it's picked 2 to 5, I guess we'll see. I'm not really I've watched a couple games of Jamar Chase. I'm not like the biggest fan of him. Like, I don't see him being like a Julio Jones or who else would it be, like a Calvin Johnson type. Like, I don't see him being like a game changer like that. I could be wrong, but I don't know if I would take him in the top 5. So, I mean, look, from what I've seen so far, if Thomas pans out and they don't need a Sewell, then I would probably say trade back. But I do have more people to watch. If I fall in love with a prospect, then I might change my mind. But from what I've seen so far, I think trading back would not be the worst idea in that situation. So, yeah, we've gone on for a little bit here, probably like 40 minutes, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I appreciate you guys asking a lot of questions this time. As I said, I tried to get to all of them. I think we did here. I think I might have missed 1 or 2, but they were like repeats, so I'm sorry about that if I missed it. One question was, we traded Marcus Golden, so I didn't go over that one because, yes, we did trade Marcus Golden. So, but yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. As I said, we'll do it next month, November. Hopefully at that point the Giants are first in the NFC East. That would be nice. But being realistic, it'll probably be more draft talk. So I'll try to look at more prospects in that time so I come more prepared and have more to offer. But once again, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you guys next time.